All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into the life of Venus Lux.
Venus Lux.
You probably know her as an adult film star, but she's actually so much more than that.
Right, right.
She's got entrepreneurial ventures, very outspoken thoughts on being transgender, especially back in 2015, and even some pretty interesting personal reflections.
Yeah, she uses her platform to talk about so much more than just adult films.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at excerpts from her podcast,
Okay.
The Venus Lux Show,
Oh.
where she really opens up about her life.
So it's like getting to know her off the screen.
Yeah.
And not just in her adult films.
Exactly.
So she's 24, turning 25 this year.
Yep.
And already has a whole bunch of awards. But her journey starts way before any of that.
That's right.
Venus is self-proclaimed hood girl, born and raised in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Mission District, Tenderloin, Hunters Point.
She's seen it all.
She's seen a lot of life.
Yeah, a lot of life for 25.
Yeah, totally. And it seems like that drive and that perspective is kind of woven into everything that she does.
Yeah, she even said, you know, she feels old at 25.
Really?
Not because of the number, but because she's been working since she was 13.
Wow.
So she's been hustling a lot longer than most 24, 25-year-olds.
Totally.
A lot different life experience.
So how does she get into adult film?
Well, she was actually discovered in San Francisco.
Okay.
Saw it as a chance for growth, new experiences. She's really open about the downsides of the industry,
Okay.
you know, lack of privacy, awkward public encounters.
Yep.
But she doesn't dwell on the negatives.
Okay.
What's really interesting is that she focuses on the positive.
Okay, I like that.
So she talks about a strong connection with her fans.
In her podcast, yeah.
From the podcast.
She really values that interaction.
Exactly. Appreciates her work.
Yeah, appreciates the work.
And she sees her platform, especially the podcast, as a way to express herself beyond what you see on the screen.
Okay.
You know, be more than just a performer.
Okay, so like I said, she's got a really impressive list of awards.
Oh, yeah. Very impressive.
Multiple AVN and XBiz awards. Even the XRCO Musty Girl Award.
That one was a big one.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't she the first trans woman to win that?
You are absolutely right.
Okay, good.
The Musty Girl Award is all about recognizing performers who are, let's say, uninhibited,
Okay.
adventurous in their scenes.
Sure.
And for Venus to win this award, it really points to how she's breaking barriers and pushing the boundaries of what's considered mainstream acceptable in the adult film world.
So she's making a statement.
Yeah.
It's not just about being successful, it's about kind of changing things up.
Pushing for greater recognition for trans performers.
And using her platform to be part of the conversation around transgender issues.
Exactly.
Especially in light of what she calls the 2015 transgender revolution.
Right. That was a really interesting time.
Yeah, there's so much visibility in the media.
Yeah, it was exploding.
And so she's kind of positioning herself within all that and using her voice.
Right, right.
To talk about what it's like to be not just transgender, but Asian.
Yep.
A millennial, single parent.
Like all these different layers.
So many layers.
Yeah, and she doesn't shy away from any of it.
Which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So let's actually talk about the Venus Lux Show.
Okay.
The podcast.
That's good.
Why did she decide to start a podcast?
Well, you know, connecting with fans was a big part of it.
Sure.
But she also wanted to foster a deeper dialogue about the things that are important to her.
Yeah.
Being transgender in 2015 was a very different experience than it was decades before.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah. And so she's using her podcast to contribute to that evolving conversation.
So it's like an open forum for discussion.
That's exactly right.
She's inviting people to share their perspective.
Yeah.
Which speaks to her entrepreneurial spirit, I guess.
Yeah.
And speaking of entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
Trans Global Magazine.
Trans Global Magazine.
Wait, she created a whole magazine?
It's an online magazine.
Okay.
Completely free.
Wow.
That she created as a resource.
Okay.
For both the trans community and for people who just want to learn more.
So like information, inspiration, education, all that?
All rolled into one.
That seems like a lot to take on.
It was very unusual.
Okay.
Especially for someone in adult films.
Yeah.
Really speaks to her drive to go beyond just her performance career.
So she's using her platform to create something with real impact.
Exactly.
Potentially.
Yeah, and help to educate people about transgender issues.
That's really cool.
She's very intentional about making it free.
Good for her.
Wants it to be accessible.
Yeah.
And she's very, very adamant about featuring a wide range of voices and perspectives within the trans community.
Oh, important.
Especially given how much misinformation is out there.
Yeah, and prejudice.
Yeah, so it's really a powerful tool.
For awareness and education.
Yeah, she sees it as a way to combat those negative forces.
Yeah.
And provide a platform for authentic stories and experiences.
So I'm really impressed by this magazine.
It's a big undertaking.
It's huge, so she must have a really strong work ethic.
She does. She does.
So what were some of the biggest obstacles she had to overcome?
Well, she talks about feeling lost at times.
Oh.
Searching for purpose. Which I think a lot of us can relate to.
I think so, too.
No matter what your career is.
Totally.
That feeling of needing to find your place in the world, figure out what you're meant to do.
Totally.
So she really emphasizes the importance of finding your passion.
Okay.
Breaking free from, what society expects.
Which is easier said than done.
Oh, for sure.
So she thinks that we all have a unique contribution to make to the world.
Exactly.
And it's up to us to find it and embrace it, even if it doesn't fit that conventional mold.
Even if it's different.
Right, even if it's different.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned briefly that she had a foray into mainstream entertainment.
Yeah, briefly.
So what was that all about?
Well, she appeared on Comedy Central's Brody Stevens show.
Oh, cool.
Which was filmed right on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a chance for her to step outside of her usual environment.
Okay.
To kind of showcase her personality.
That's cool.
In a different context.
So how was that for her?
She seemed to really like it.
Yeah.
She talks about walking down Hollywood Boulevard during the filming, all eyes on her.
Yeah.
Just having fun with it.
For her.
Yeah. And she seems to really thrive on that energy and attention.
That's great that she stepped outside her comfort zone and tried something new.
Yeah. And she didn't stop there.
Oh.
She also had a role in the pilot episode of Hard Times.
Okay.
Which was a parody about the adult film industry.
A parody?
A parody about the adult film industry, yeah.
Okay. I have to hear more about this.
So it was a really interesting project.
Okay.
Because it featured a cast of actual adult film stars.
Oh, wow.
But the content itself was completely clean. No nudity, no explicit scenes.
So it's like a behind the scenes.
Yeah, poking fun at the industry.
Yeah.
The stereotypes that surround it.
Okay, so she was basically acting.
She was acting a different way.
Playing a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was playing a character.
That's wild.
And she got to work alongside, some true legends of the industry.
Like who?
Like Nina Hartley, Tommy Pistol, Evan Stone.
Wow, people she probably grew up watching.
Probably, yeah.
That's crazy. What was that like for her?
I mean, she doesn't go into a ton of detail about behind the scenes.
Sure.
But she did mention that it was really funny to, try to act normal in that setting.
Oh my gosh.
Restrain herself from being too provocative.
Because of the nature of the parody.
Exactly.
So she had to playing a character.
That's right.
That's amazing.
It takes some comedic talent.
It really does.
And she seems to have pulled it off flawlessly.
Well, good for her.
Yeah.
It seems like she's really open to, exploring all these different avenues.
Yeah, she is.
Which makes sense, given her entrepreneurial spirit.
Totally.
She's not someone who wants to be put in a box.
No.
Always looking for new challenges. New ways to express herself creatively.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's inspiring.
It is. It makes you wonder what else she's got up her sleeve.
Right, because she's already accomplished so much at such a young age.
I mean, she's a successful adult film star.
Right.
An award-winning performer, a podcast host, a magazine founder, a businesswoman.
It's like she has multiple lives.
It's really impressive.
Packed into one.
It is.
And we're only just getting started with this deep dive.
Just getting started.
There's so much more to explore.
There is.
Her personal reflections, her thoughts on being a millennial, her experiences as a single parent.
All that and more.
I'm already hooked.
Right.
So what else can you tell me about this fascinating woman?
Well, let's delve into her thoughts on being a millennial.
Okay.
And how that kind of shapes her worldview.
All right, I'm intrigued. What's her take on her generation? Well, she's actually pretty critical.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Of some aspects of millennial culture.
Okay, what doesn't she like about her own generation?
So she talks about the obsession with social media,
Okay.
the pressure to, present a perfect image online.
Okay.
And the tendency to prioritize instant gratification over long-term goals.
Huh. That's interesting. I haven't really heard that take before.
It's a perspective you don't hear from somebody who's so active on social media herself.
That's true.
But she's not afraid to challenge her own generation.
Good for her.
You know, call out the things she sees as problematic.
That's refreshing. I like that.
Yeah.
So she's not just complaining.
No.
She's offering solutions, too.
Exactly.
So
she talks about the importance of disconnecting from social media, you know, focusing on building those real connections and prioritizing experiences over material possessions.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's like finding true happiness and fulfillment, which can be hard to do in today's world.
Oh, absolutely. It's so easy to get caught up in that need for validation.
Yes.
Material wealth.
Totally.
She also points out that her generation faces some pretty unique challenges.
Like what?
Things like climate change, you know, economic inequality, political polarization, these huge systemic issues.
Yeah.
It's a lot to grapple with.
But what does she say about that?
Well, she believes her generation has the potential to create a better future.
Okay.
But it's going to take a collective effort.
Yeah.
You know, we have to challenge the status quo, think outside the box, and work together to build a more just and sustainable world.
That's a big ask.
It is.
But it's good.
It is. It is.
So she's calling her generation to action.
She's encouraging them to step up and take responsibility.
For shaping the future.
That's right.
Which is cool.
She's actually walking the walk.
Yeah.
She's involved in social justice causes. She uses her platform to advocate for change.
So she's putting her words into action.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love that.
She's a true leader in that regard.
Well, that is a great note to end on for part 1.
It is.
I'm already blown away by Venus Lux's story.
I know, it's incredible, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I said, she's so much more than just an adult film star.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a great reminder to never underestimate the power of one person.
It really is.
To make a difference in the world.
It is. She's amazing.
So listeners, stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into the fascinating world of Venus Lux.
We'll be right back. Welcome back.
It's really incredible how much she's packed into her life already.
I know, right?
And we're just scratching the surface.
We are.
Last time, we left off talking about her passion for social change.
Right.
And her belief in the power of her generation. It's pretty inspiring to see someone so young making such a big impact.
It's interesting to me that she doesn't just talk about making a difference. She actually takes action.
Right.
Remember her online magazine, Transglobal Magazine?
Yeah.
That's a prime example of her putting her words into action.
I'm actually really curious about that magazine.
Okay.
We touched on it a little bit before.
Yeah.
But what kind of content does it actually feature?
It's more than just a typical magazine.
Okay.
She describes it as a passion project, a space for diverse voices within the transgender community to share their stories, experiences, and perspectives.
So it's about information, inspiration, education.
All rolled into one.
And it sounds like she's trying to create a platform for authentic representation.
Absolutely.
To combat all those stereotypes and misconceptions that surround transgender issues.
It's about giving people the facts.
Yeah.
The real stories.
And she's adamant about making it accessible to everyone.
Yes. That's why it's completely free online.
That's great.
Wants to make sure that anyone who's interested in learning more has access to that information.
It shows that she really cares.
She does.
About making a difference and empowering others.
Her motivations run much deeper than just fame and fortune.
It seems like it.
She's driven by a desire to create a more inclusive world.
Yeah.
A more understanding world.
Yeah, and she's using her platform to do that.
Exactly. Exactly.
So she's really living her values.
She is.
Which is always inspiring to see.
It's not easy to do.
No, it's not. And what's even more remarkable is that she launched this magazine while also juggling her adult film career, the podcast, her production company.
She's a multi-hyphenate.
It's like superhuman.
I know. It's a lot.
The amount of energy and dedication she has.
But, you know, with all this talk about her public image and her activism, I'm curious to hear more about her personal reflections.
Okay.
What does she have to say about her own journey, the things she's learned along the way?
What has she learned?
She's incredibly candid about the fact that it hasn't always been easy.
Sure.
She talks about feeling lost at times, searching for purpose.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
I agree. I think it's a universal experience, that feeling of being lost or unsure of your direction in life.
So she's not pretending to have it all figured out.
No, not at all.
Which is refreshing.
She's very open about the challenges, the mistakes, the lessons.
It makes her more human.
Exactly.
To hear someone be so honest.
Yeah, especially someone in the public eye.
Yes, exactly.
One of the things she emphasizes is the importance of self-discovery.
Okay.
Taking the time to explore your passions.
Yeah.
Figure out what makes you happy.
That can be hard to do.
They can be, yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in trying to please others or conform to what society expects.
It is. It is.
But she encourages people to be curious.
Yes.
Ask questions.
Challenge those assumptions
That we've inherited from society.
She believes we all have a unique contribution to make. It's our responsibility to find it.
Even if it means going against the grain.
Even if it's different.
Yeah, so she's a living example of that.
She is. She's not afraid to be herself. Embrace her unique identity, pursue her passion.
Even if they're unconventional.
Exactly. Exactly.
So hearing her talk about her journey, I wonder if there was a particular turning point for her. A moment where everything clicked into place.
She doesn't really pinpoint one single moment.
Okay.
But she talks about the importance of trusting her intuition, surrounding herself with people who support her.
That's really important.
It is. It is.
Especially when you're trying to navigate uncharted territory.
Having that support system can make all the difference.
Totally.
She calls it finding your tribe.
Okay.
Connecting with people who understand you.
Yeah.
Celebrate your authentic self.
Which is what she found in a variety of places, including within the adult film industry.
Yeah. Which might surprise some people.
It's easy to assume that it's all about competition.
Yeah.
Superficiality.
Yeah, but it's not always the case.
But she's found genuine connections.
She has
friendship
tips.
within that world.
And she's also very active in the broader transgender community.
Okay.
Where she's found mentors, collaborators, friends.
It's a reminder that we can find community in the most unexpected places.
Sometimes where you least expect it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and those connections can be incredibly powerful.
I bet.
Especially when you're navigating challenging terrain.
So speaking of challenging terrain, we haven't really talked much about her experience as a single parent.
That's right.
How did she manage to balance parenthood with everything else she's got going on?
It's definitely a complex and demanding aspect of her life.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and she's very open about the challenges.
Okay, what can you tell me about Venus as a mother?
She describes motherhood as both the most challenging and the most rewarding experience of her life. Yeah.
So she's embracing the role.
She is.
Even with all the demands on her time and energy?
She talks about creating a stable and loving home for her child.
Okay.
And she's committed to giving him the best possible opportunities.
That's really sweet.
It is. She's a very dedicated mom.
But she's aware of the challenges
Yes.
of being a single parent.
Especially given her background and her career.
Yeah, what kind of challenges?
Well, financial strain of raising a child on her own.
Of course.
Lack of family support.
Yeah.
And also the judgment she's faced from people
I can imagine.
who don't approve of her lifestyle.
Must be hard.
It is, but she's very resilient.
Okay.
She's learned to tune out the noise. Focus on what matters most, her child's well-being.
That's a good priority to have.
It is. She's got her priorities straight.
But she's also open about the emotional toll that single parenthood can take.
That loneliness, exhaustion, pressure of doing it all alone.
It's a lot for one person.
It is. It is. She's learned the importance of self-care, though.
Oh,
and making sure she's taking care of her own well-being.
It's easy to get caught up in the demands of parenthood.
It is.
And forget about yourself.
Forget about yourself, yeah.
But she's a big believer in you can't pour from an empty cup.
That's right.
You have to take care of yourself.
You do.
So you can be the best parent you can be.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it's not just about being a single parent. It's about being a transgender parent.
That's right.
Which comes with its own set of challenges.
Exactly. She talks about the fear of discrimination.
Okay.
The pressure to present a certain image.
Right.
And the difficulty of navigating all those gender norms and expectations.
That must be really hard.
It is. It is.
And she's so brave.
She is.
For speaking out about these issues.
Absolutely.
And advocating for more understanding.
More acceptance.
Of transgender parents.
She's using her platform to make a difference.
It's really inspiring.
It is.
To see her strength, her resilience, her love for her child.
She's a true inspiration.
And she's not afraid to be vulnerable and honest.
About the ups and downs.
Which I think is what makes her so relatable.
It is, yeah.
It's like she's not pretending to have it all figured out.
She's just sharing her experience.
Which resonates with a lot of people.
It does, yeah.
It's a reminder that we're all human.
We are.
And it's okay to ask for help.
We all need help sometimes.
And lean on others when we need it.
Absolutely.
Especially in today's world where everything's all about perfection.
Yeah, celebrating success.
Right.
It's okay to be imperfect.
Yeah.
It's okay to make mistakes.
It's okay to not be okay.
That's right.
So we've talked a lot about her activism, her advocacy work.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear more about her business ventures.
Okay.
We touched on her production company, her clothing line.
Right.
But let's dive a little deeper into her entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
What drives her success in those areas?
She's incredibly driven, very ambitious.
Okay.
Has a knack for identifying opportunities, turning them into successful ventures.
So what's her approach to business?
Well, she's a big believer in hard work, determination. She talks about those long hours, the sacrifices, the relentless pursuit of her goals.
So she doesn't shy away from the hustle.
No, she embraces it.
She embraces the hustle.
She does.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that success doesn't come easy.
It doesn't.
It takes effort.
It does.
A willingness to put in the work.
Put in the work.
Yeah, she also talks about being strategic.
Okay.
Having a vision for what you want to achieve, setting goals, developing a plan, staying focused on that big picture.
So she's organized, goal-oriented.
Very much so.
I like it.
But she's also adaptable.
Okay.
Willing to adjust her approach as needed.
Right, because the business world is constantly changing.
Exactly.
Things don't always go according to plan.
You have to be willing to pivot.
Exactly.
And she's not afraid to try new things.
That's important.
It is.
To stay ahead of the curve.
She also understands the power of networking.
Okay.
Building relationships. That success is often a team effort.
And she's not afraid to ask for help or collaborate.
We don't have to do it all alone.
We don't.
There's strength in numbers.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And she's very generous with her time and her knowledge.
Really?
Yeah, she's a mentor.
Oh, wow.
To aspiring entrepreneurs.
That's so cool.
She's always willing to share her insights and advice.
That's really kind of her.
It is. It is.
So she wants to see others succeed.
She does.
And she's willing to help them along the way.
She's a true leader.
Yeah.
She's not just about building her own empire.
Right.
She wants to empower others.
To create their own success stories.
That's right.
I'm blown away by her entrepreneurial spirit.
Me too.
And her generosity.
It's inspiring.
It's clear that she's not just in it for herself.
No.
She's in it to make a difference.
She's using her business ventures to create positive change.
Yeah.
To advocate for social justice.
That's great.
To empower marginalized communities.
A reminder that business can be a force for good.
Absolutely.
That we can all use our talents, our resources.
To make a difference.
To make a positive impact on the world.
She's a shining example.
Now, before we move on,
I
have a question.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the positive aspects of Venus's story.
We have.
Her resilience, her ambition, her commitment to making a difference. But are there any aspects of her story that you find challenging?
That's a great question.
Or that make you question her choices?
It is a good question.
Because it's easy to get caught up.
It is.
In the inspiring narrative.
Yeah.
And maybe overlook
the complexities.
Or potential downsides.
Of her choices.
So I'm all for celebrating her achievements.
Me too.
But we also want to make sure we're being critical.
Absolutely.
And nuanced in our analysis.
It's about balance.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think one of the most challenging aspects is that she works in an industry that's often exploitative.
Yeah.
Perpetuates harmful stereotypes.
The adult film industry has a long and complicated history.
It does.
There's no denying that.
No.
And it has often been a source of harm and exploitation.
For a lot of performers.
So how do we reconcile those two things?
That's the question.
How do we acknowledge the harms?
Right.
While also celebrating her achievements?
I think it requires a nuanced perspective.
Okay.
We can acknowledge those systemic issues and the potential for exploitation while recognizing that individuals within that industry have their own agency.
Their own choices.
Their own stories.
So it's about seeing the individual within the system.
Exact.
And recognizing that everyone's journey is complex.
It is complex.
Multifaceted.
Yeah, and I think Venus's story is a perfect example.
It really is.
She's chosen to work within this industry.
Yeah.
That's often fraught with challenges. But she's doing it on her own terms.
On her own terms.
Yeah, and she's using her platform to advocate for change.
That's what's important.
It is.
So it's a reminder that we should never make assumptions about people.
Never.
Based on their profession.
Or their background.
Yeah,
everyone has a story.
Everyone has a story.
It's up to us to listen with an open mind.
An open mind.
And a compassionate heart.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important takeaways from this deep dive.
That's a great point to end on for part 2.
It is.
Before we jump into the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I just want to encourage our listeners to think critically
Absolutely.
about everything we've discussed so far.
Think for yourselves.
Venus Lux's story is complex,
It is.
multifaceted,
Yeah.
and it raises a lot of important questions.
It does.
But identity, representation, the power of individual action.
Big questions.
Big questions.
Yeah, it's a story that challenges us
It does.
to examine our own assumptions, to think more deeply about the systems.
About the systems
Yeah.
that shape our
The
world.
structures that are in place.
So listeners, stay tuned for the final part
Yes.
of our deep dive
Part 3.
into the world of Venus Lux.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Venus Lux. We've talked about so much, from her adult film career to her businesses to her advocacy.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
And, before the break, we were talking about the complexities of the adult film industry.
Right.
And how it's important to be mindful of the potential for exploitation, even while we celebrate Venus's success.
Yeah, we need to keep that balanced perspective, definitely.
It's easy to forget that Venus is just one person,
Absolutely.
and her experience might not reflect everyone's.
Not at all. Every story is different.
Speaking of stories, there's one part of Venus's story we haven't really gotten into yet.
Oh, which one's that?
Her experience working on Hard Times, that parody about the adult film industry.
Ah, yes, Hard Times.
You mentioned it featured a cast of real adult film stars, but the content itself was totally clean.
Yeah, no nudity, just comedy.
I bet that was a trip for her, going from explicit scenes to a parody like that.
It was a pretty unique project. Gave her a chance to show off her acting skills in a whole new way.
It must have been so strange having to hold back.
She actually talks about that, the humor of trying to restrain herself.
Oh, really?
Like she had to play a character who was playing a character.
Whoa, meta.
Right. That must have been a real challenge.
Did she enjoy it at least?
Oh, yeah, she had a lot of fun with it.
Good.
She talks about the camaraderie on set, the shared sense of humor.
I can imagine with a cast like that.
And, stepping outside her comfort zone.
Plus, she got to work with those industry icons.
Nina Hartley, Tommy Pistol, Evan Stone.
That's amazing.
What an opportunity.
She probably learned so much from them.
Oh, I'm sure she was soaking it all up.
Looking back on everything, it's clear Venus Lux is a woman of contradictions.
She really is, in a good way.
A successful adult film star, a dedicated mother, a passionate advocate for social justice.
It's what makes her so interesting.
She defies easy categorization.
You can't put her in a box.
And she makes us question our assumptions about people.
About their choices, their lives.
She's a reminder that the world is full of nuance.
And complexity.
Never judge a book by its cover, right?
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing the power of individual action.
That one person can make a difference.
Even when things are tough.
Especially then.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible.
I agree.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of Venus Lux.
Her vision, her values, her drive.
So for our listeners who are just as fascinated as we are,
I'm sure there are a lot of them.
where can they go to learn more?
Well, definitely check out her podcast, The Venus Lux Show.
She really opens up there.
She does. It's a great listen.
And for those interested in the transgender community,
and the issues they face,
Trans Global Magazine is a must-read.
A fantastic resource.
Absolutely free online.
Don't forget that part.
Venus Lux's story is about authenticity,
Resilience, courage.
breaking down barriers.
She's an inspiration.
We can all learn something from her journey.
No matter who you are, where you come from.
Well, that concludes our deep dive into the world of Venus Lux.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you found it as insightful as we did.
Until next time, keep exploring.
And keep an open mind.